Hey everyone, this is the Canadian Wolf bringing you another Reddit story. This one is from the EntitledParents subreddit and is titled Karen's Middle Seat. Not actually hers. Let's get to it, Pack. Another Karen on a plane post reminded me of this lovely experience last month. Due to a new procurement process cluster bleep at work nobody cares about, I booked a flight to my conference destination really late. All that was left were middle seats or ponying up personally for an upgrade, which wasn't going to happen on a relatively short flight. Out in the boarding area, they announced many times that it was full flight and kept begging people to gate check their bags. It wasn't subtle. After they let all the military, first class, frequent flyers, and blah blah need more time people board, my group got to plod down the jetway. Once we got onto the plane, I could see my fate before me. A wild Karen was sitting in an aisle seat, the middle was piled with Karen crap, backpack, electronic devices, stuffed animals, snacks, and a miniature Karen was over in the window seat happily kicking the empty seat in front of her so hard it was visibly shaking. Joy. That's, counts the rows, definitely mine. When I got to the row, I pointed to the middle seat to indicate it's mine. Karen did not budge or move a single thing from that crab hench. I tried again with the whole, sorry, that's my seat routine. She snapped at me, sit somewhere else. I'm all, can't do that, wolf flight, this is my assigned seat. Well, Karen wasn't having that. Did I know what kind of day she'd had? It had started the day before, their flight was diverted, they missed their connection, they slept in the airport overnight. They just need a little space. Sit somewhere else. And she shoved her knees up full against the seat in front of her, blocking my way to the crappy even before she loaded it with Karen cruft middle seat. Then she shut her eyes and pretended to be asleep. I slammed the flight attendant button over her head and awkwardly crouch in the row behind so people can get past. We'd already made a scene and clogged up boarding. As I crouched there, I realized nothing about Karen's story made sense. We weren't at the big city airport where flights sometimes did get diverted. We were at the tiny regional airport that only had a couple airlines that flew to a few major hubs. No connections happened there. There also weren't a bunch of other people griping about missed connections, diversions, or having slept in the airport. When a tiny regional has that happen, you know. Everybody knows. Karen was probably full of shit. Anyhow, the saintly flight attendant arrived to ask what was wrong. She checked my ticket. Yep, that was unfortunately my seat. Then she asked Karen to see her and the kids' tickets. Karen kept her eyes closed and continued to pretend to be asleep. I don't know how she thought that would work, but the flight attendant shook her shoulders several times and kept speaking loudly to her. You must remember, boarding is going on all around this. People were hefting bags, trying to find seats, and the usual loud mayhem. It was ridiculous. Saintly flight attendant finally told Karen that if she didn't respond, paramedics would be called about an unresponsive passenger. That got Karen's attention. She popped up and demanded, "What? I'm trying to sleep." And then went off on the same rant she did at me about her travel nightmare and needing the space. Saintly flight attendant explained that it was a full flight, all the seats were booked, standby passengers were waiting for any extras, and Karen needed to let me sit. This sent Karen into wails over being separated from her baby by a stranger. Saintly flight attendant pointed out that she booked the island window seats herself, leaving that separation, so she could either ask me to swap or sit in them as assigned. That set off another rant. Apparently, some frequent flyer travel advice site out there says to book window aisle seat and hope nobody sits in the middle so you get a free space. I imagine this works on flights that aren't full. This one was full. Karen swore she got that tip on how to get an extra seat free off of airline's website and threw quite the shit fit that after they told her to do that, she was being punished by being separated from her baby. Meanwhile, the people in the other row in front arrived, and Minnie Karen was still kicking away like she was at soccer practice. It was so bad, the guy in the window seat didn't even want to sit down. He leaned over and asked the kid to stop kicking. Minnie Karen yet let out an unholy wail, "Stranger!" that she had apparently been trained to do if a stranger spoke to her. Karen turned from her screaming fit at the flight attendant to take in the scene of an adult man, the row in front looking at her child in horror, and the child wailing, "Stranger!" at the top of her lungs, only to turn right back to the flight attendant while pointing at the dude and demanding, "Get this pedophile off this plane immediately!" That's where saintly flight attendant went from firm and reasonable to utterly brilliant. She sagely nodded at Karen. "We can't remove him from the flight because he hasn't done anything to your child, but we can certainly get you two reseated if you're not comfortable with your current location and situation. Gather your things, we'll take you up to the desk and see if there are any upgrades available to the more space seats." It was amazing. Karen puffed up in self-importance as she gathered her now happy spawn and all their crap. She threw elbows like mad, shoving her way upstream past all the people still trying to board. She heard the magic word, "Upgrade!" and she was going to get there before it was gone. I sort of cursed to myself that they probably were upgrading her to make her calm the bleep down, and was not thrilled that her ridiculous display worked. Then, saintly flight attendant's coworker came back to ask if I preferred the window or aisle seat to my middle seat. Aisle, thanks. At least I got that right. It got better. Saintly flight attendant's coworker explained that I could relax because Karen and entitled kid wouldn't be returning. There were no upgrades. It was faster, easier to get them off the flight that way than calling security. They filled the seats with waiting standby passengers, and presumably Karen had plenty of space to sit next to her Minnie Karen in the terminal while waiting for the next flight. Well played, saintly flight attendant. Well played. Well, I can't say that I feel sorry with what happened to the Karen by being walked off the plane, but I mean, she wasn't really being respectful. The flight was fully booked. She filled up the seat with junk that wasn't really needed for such a short flight. So hey, she got what she deserved. But the saintly flight attendant sure handled that like a pro. Well done. Well everyone, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed this story. If so, make sure to hit that like button and go give the author an upvote on Reddit. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you know when my next video comes out. This is the Canadian Wolf saying, stay wild.